To begin, we're going to go ahead and look at a difference of two squares problem. So we'll start off with, say for example, 2a squared minus 200b squared. Now with any problem that you start working with, if you are asked to factor it, what you want to do is make sure that you take out any greatest common factors. So in this case, if you were to look at each term, so the first term being this 2a squared and the second term being this negative 200b squared, you want to see if there are any common factors between here. And hopefully, if you take a moment, you see that the common factor that you can pull out is a 2. That being said then, we ask ourselves what we have left over, and after we remove the 2 from the first term, we just have a squared minus, if you remove a factor of 2 from 200, the factor that you have left over is 100, and then the b squared goes along. So at this point, what you should notice is that in the first term, we have an a squared. So you should be asking yourself, okay, if I have an a squared, is there something that I could square in order to get a squared? And the answer to that question would be, well, I can square a. If you take a look at the second term, this 100b squared. So note that in this case, the term is this product, or this multiplication between 100 and b squared. So you kind of can split it into two different situations. You can ask yourself, well, can I split apart 100? Is there something that I can square to get 100? And then you want to also ask yourself, is there something that I can square to get b squared? And I know that for that last question, it's kind of a no-brainer that you would have to square b in order to get b squared. So going along, the 2 that you factored out just goes along for the ride. What you do want to note is, yes, this first term, you can actually square a value to get it. And again, for the second term, you can square those two factors in order to get it. And you also want to note that you are working with a subtraction sign or a difference. So that's why you have something that's called a difference of two squares, because you have a minus sign and two values that have been squared. So if you have that, we can break this into our two binomials, and it's kind of this nice little Easter egg drop sort of thing. So we look at our a squared, and we say, okay, a and a. And then for the 100, we know that in order to get a negative 100, we could do a positive 10, and then, or sorry, a negative 10 and a positive 10. And then with the b squared, it would have to be b and b. So once you get to this point, once you get to this, you are done. You do have your answer, and here's how you know. Because if you were to take a look at any of your quantities, so for example, if we take a look at 2 first, well, I can't break apart a 2. That's already a prime number, and there's nothing that I can factor out of it between the other two quantities as well. If you take a look at the a minus 10b, they're already broken down as simply as possible. This is a binomial, but I can't factor it. Like, this isn't a difference of two squares anymore. This isn't a trinomial that I can break apart. It's basically down to its simplest component. And that's going to take a little while to get your feelers around. You know, is this something that I can continue to go further with, or is this as far as I can take it? And that somewhat comes from experience, but if you kind of notice there are no exponents next to your variables, and you really can't break this apart anymore. And then the same argument can be made for this a plus 10b. So therefore, your answer is 2 times the quantity a minus 10b times the quantity a plus 10b.